current meteor storm affecting Earth will get much worse. As it moves in, the frigid outer layers will stream out, increasing the volume of the coma and tail. Sudden and dramatic outbursts are expected as the layers of its hot internal structure boil away into the coma and tail until the solid core remains for perigee. It will perturb Mars's orbit slightly, but a rough calculation on gravitational force between it and Mars gives a scalar value approximately 1% of the force between the Sun and Mars, so it won't be towing Mars away, as some have speculated. Me included. However, that this is all guesswork from here on because we have no actual data. So I'm making a best guess. Its electrical and magnetic effects on the planets will be unprecedented. Neptune has a quad-polar magnetic field, and ISONs will be as strong or stronger as its internal dynamo is energized by close proximity to the Sun. It may very well produce the kill shot CME.
This is Dave with In-Game Beginning at www.3.com. I've got some news here I want to put out. I'm sure a few people have heard of this, but I just kind of want to make my subscribers aware of it. There's a big drill coming out in November here in America called Grid X2, Grid Security Exercise 2013. Now, the New York Times put a story out on this on the 16th of this month, August. It says, as worries over the power grid rise, the drill will simulate a knockout blow. It says the electric grid, as government and private experts describe it, is the glass jaw of American industry. If an adversary lands a knockout blow, they fear it could black out vast areas of the continent for weeks, interrupt supplies of water, gasoline, diesel fuel, and fresh food, shut down communications, and create disruptions of a scale that was only hinted at by Hurricane Sandy and the attacks of September 11. And it goes on here. I'll put the link below. And they're getting ready to have this big exercise here. And the way it sounds, it could involve it's going to involve government agencies in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Of course, the NAU there, North American Union. And then they give you a link for, they go into the story and there's a link in here for a PDF from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. They call it NERC, N-E-R-C. It says NERC will host GridX 2013 on November 13th through the 14th, 2013. North American-wide distributed play exercise, executive policy trigger tabletop exercise on 14th of November. And then you look at the PDF here and it tells you all the objectives of this drill coming up. Like for one, validate the current readiness of the electricity industry to respond to a security incident incorporating lessons learned from GridX 2011. Assess, test, and validate existing command, control, and communications plans and tools for NERC and its stakeholders. Identify potential improvements in physical and cybersecurity plans, programs, and responder skills. And number 4, evaluate senior leadership policy, doctrine, and triggers in response to major grid reliability issues. And like I said, I'll put a link to this too below. So I just kind of wanted to keep everybody updated on what I'm seeing here. You know, this could be something, it could be just a regular drill, but you know, I don't trust when government has drills, especially when it's got to do with Canada and Mexico too. Like I said, that's the North American Union. But again, I will put all links below. This has been In-Game, beginning at www.3.com.
which has been predicted also by Major Ed Dames. Okay, and you guys can look that up, find out who he is. As it rockets around the back of the sun, as viewed from Earth, I believe it will be, I believe it as bright and as big as the sun when it emerges from before cooling and shrinking as it moves back out into outer space. Our world will be a different place by then, as the grid slowly returns, the asteroid storms and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions subside. Prepare. We've got some time. They're not telling us the truth. They're not going to tell you the truth to prepare. If they announced this today, who would go to work tomorrow? Economies would collapse. Everything would be in chaos. But I'm telling you, prepare. The SAO, NASA Astrophysics Data System, okay, ADS, which stands for Astrophysics Data System, okay, the Physics of Comet Tails by John C. Brandt, Goddard Space Flight Center, Greenbelt, Maryland. Okay, now I'm not going to read this entire article, but I'm going to read parts that I believe are pertinent, okay. Calculations for a model nucleus, Hubner 1965, indicate a surface temperature in the range of 150 to 250 degrees Kelvin. Finally, the total mass loss from a large comet during a perihelion passage has been estimated at 1% of the total mass. This mass must come out of the nucleus. Now, 150 to 250 degrees Kelvin, just so we know what we're talking about, 150 degrees Kelvin is negative or minus 189.67 degrees Fahrenheit and minus 123.15 degrees centigrade. Okay, and if we make that to 250, that is minus 9 degrees Fahrenheit and minus 23.15 degrees centigrade, a very cold day in Canada. I'm continuing. The coma is composed of meteoric dust and natural molecules in an essentially spherical volume centered on the nucleus. These constituents appear to be moving away from the nucleus with velocities of half a kilometer per second, estimated from concentric expanding rings of halos from Comet Halley. Bob Robinikoff, 1931. The coma can be detected out to a distance of 10 to the 5th or 10 to the 6th kilometers. Okay, from the nucleus. That 10 to the 5th and 10 to the 6th is about 100,000 to 1 million kilometers from the nucleus. The nucleus, the molecules CN, CH, NH, OH, and C3 and NH2 have been identified spectroscopically. Rosen, Swings, and Hugel, 1957, Arpigny, 1965. This list may well be seriously incomplete because the observations are limited to the visible spectrum. Okay, by the way, CN, by the way, is cyanide, in case you're wondering, and NH is ammonia. Is this why they're not releasing the spectroscopic data? Is this thing emitting large amounts of cyanide? If so, when we get blasted by its tail when it comes around after perihelion, and we are going to get blasted by its tail up to AU, according to NASA, it's going to have a tail that massive. That could, in and of itself, if we get blasted by a tail filled with cyanide, that could in and of itself be a extinction level event. Moving along. Rocket or satellite observations above the atmosphere would remove this rather serious uncertainty. If the velocity is constant and photo dissociation unimportant, the space density varies as R-2, and the surface brightness as R-1, provided that the opacity is small. This latter variation is approximately observed. Typical estimates for the total gas density are 10 to the 12th and 10 to the 14th molecules per centimeter cubed near the nucleus, and 10 to the 2nd, 10 to the 4th molecules cubed near the outer boundary. The coma is visible during most of a perihelion passage of a comet. It is apparently quite small at distances of 4 AU or greater. The maximum size appears to be obtained at 1.5 to 2 AU, 1.5 to 2 AU, together with the contraction of the coma as the comet approaches the sun. Now let's back up just a bit here. The coma is visible during most of a perihelion passage, okay, of a comet. It is apparently quite small at distances of 4 AU or greater. Okay? If the coma is quite small, the coma is apparently quite small at distances of 4 AU or greater. If that